We have reached the year 1993 and... okay, so I lied. There is one other game with Black Bomber as the main villain. It just isn't a Bomberman game. Here is Battle Lode Runner, released exclusively in Japan for the PC Engine. Black, here with a blue body, breaks into the Kagurazaka Research Center. Kagurazaka being a district in Tokyo. Hey wait, in Star Parodier, Bomberman was part of the Kagurasaka Force. Is this a typo on part of the plot summary I used? Well, Black steals all the research funds and escapes in a time machine, and it's up to Lode Runner to chase him across space and time and get all that gold back. Probably much more significant for Lode Runner, but still begged a quick mention here. Here we are, a much more well-known game, Super Bomberman, released for the Super Famicom or Super Nintendo in all regions. The first game to be released in all regions and retain its title everywhere. Hey, that's interesting. The North American box art colored Black and Red's arms and legs white. They were skin-colored normally, even in previous North American box art. Now, the Japanese version has an intro cinematic for us to go with the story, which was cut for the international releases because they felt like it, I guess. Bomberman is just living his life in the peaceful town of Peacetown, while far to the north, in Diamond City, the evil ruler Carrot Diamond and scientist Dr. Mook, these are their European names, are modifying bombers to be more aggressive so they can host a Bomberman tournament. Diamond builds a fake Bomberman to go and capture White Bomber because he heard of White's fighting ability. Black here heard of the plan and went to stop the fake Bomberman. Is it because he's friends with White now or some other reason? Why would he try to help White? Another mystery. But in the process, Black is defeated and he loses his castle. Wait, you're bringing back the fact that Black has a castle now? Are you gonna have continuity or not? Also, that castle was destroyed at the end of TG16, so how is it still standing here? Anyway, Black manages to escape and warns White of the plan to abduct him while the evil robot army invades Peacetown. So now the two must unite and face the threat together. If that story differs from what you may have heard, it's because I am going off of what Deep L gave me for the Japanese story. One would think that Dr. Mook, being the scientist, built this fake Bomberman, but it says Diamond created it. Maybe Diamond ordered Mook to do it and it counts as if he did it? It's also not clear what exactly Carrot Diamond rules over, and going by what I see here, it seems they can only modify existing Bombermen to be more aggressive and build fake ones, not build real ones from scratch. The European story mostly follows this, but the North American story says that Bomberman lives in Diamond City, while Peacetown isn't mentioned at all. Mr. Carrot and Dr. Muck here creates the ultimate battle robot, and then, after that apparently, abduct Black so they can model their robot after him. But Black escapes from captivity and warns all his fellow Bombermen of the plan, so White joins Black on Black's quest to stop them. Yeah, we'll just go with the Japanese story for this one. Also, the community has generally elected to use the European localizations for these guys' names. So it's our first co-op adventure that isn't an arcade game, and the first game where we can play as Black Bomber in the campaign and not just the battle mode. The campaign takes place on this island here in these scattered areas. No selection though, we move to the different areas automatically. The first area even shows Black Bomber's castle standing right there. In line with the arcade games, there are multiple power-ups in each stage, and if we die once, we lose a life at respawn without resetting the stage. Our death animation shows Bomberman's face flickering off as if it was a screen. There are two new power-ups that are notable. First being the Punching Glove, Power Glove, or Bomb Punch. It allows us to punch a bomb we're facing, flinging it a few spaces forward. If it lands on something solid, it will continue to bounce forwards until it reaches an empty space. And if you punch over the edge, it comes back from the other side. So we actually have some verticality here. The other new power-up is Penetration Bombs. Here it makes your bombs red. With it, our flames aren't stopped by the first soft block anymore. They can go through them and hit everything behind them. And in their first appearance here, you can actually have both Penetration Bomb and Remote Bombs at the same time. They don't cancel each other out like they will in most games after this one. I should mention that kicking a bomb into an enemy damages them, which makes the game very easy. Luckily, this is only the case in this game. Stage tile sets change multiple times per area. The last few stages of Area 1 sort of resemble Black Bomber's castle as we saw earlier in the world map. New enemies include these flamethrower tanks, bomb eaters, not the first enemies to eat bombs, but the first to eat bombs and make them disappear. We have chameleons that turn into white and black bombers, a lot less effective at confusing you if you're playing alone, bombs that detonate themselves without dying, UFOs, and these armored knights that block attacks from the front with their shields. Our music starts out with new renditions of our two main theme extensions we got from TG16. We also got a new rendition of the music from Black Bomber's castle, except it doesn't play in Black Bomber's castle, it plays in Area 3. Area 5 is actually a sort of bomber duel boss rush, as we fight against the bombers that Diamond and Mook modified. But let's face it, we want to listen to that boss music, don't we? Is it just me, or is this part of the music taken from the TG16 boss music? As bosses, we have giant robots, a giant clown face whose hurt animation kinda makes me uncomfortable, and a mech piloted by Dr. Mook, upon whose defeat a bunch of bombers show up to celebrate. So if bombers weren't an entire species of robot up to this point, they most certainly are now. The final boss is this mech thing here that shoots bombs at us. Upon its destruction, we face Carrot Diamond and Dr. Mook in a floaty thing that you can't bomb because it's floating above you. Wait a minute. Verticality. That's right, we got our power glove here to punch some bombs up to them. If you don't have one, power-ups do spawn out of nowhere here, so you'll get one eventually. As the building crumbles and everyone escapes, we give the two one more punch to the face for good measure, upon which they do that apologizing thing. The credits show us some inspirational stills from the adventure, I guess. And is this supposed to be the villains in prison at the end? We also see White and Black Bomber riding on top of enemies. Is that a spoiler for what we'll see in a few later games? Battle mode hasn't changed too much, except there are more stage gimmicks and of course the punching glove that allows for some more options, just like the kick did in the last game. Speaking of the kick, we can now press R to stop a kicked bomb where we want to. It doesn't have to slide until it hits something. And a punched bomb that hits someone on the head will stun them momentarily. Line Bomb from 93 isn't present here though, but it'll be back soon, don't worry. As Bomberman games go, this one was fairly short, but I wouldn't say that's a bad thing. It's more densely packed with alternate tile sets and new enemy gimmicks and switches between them more frequently. A good change of pace from the previous games that could get monotonous and really drag on. There was an official guidebook for Super Bomberman, and this is where I have to mention that a lot of games had official guidebooks explaining the story in comic form, and a ton of other Bomberman media has been appearing in magazines, including 4 Comas. Tons and tons of 4 Comas, which are 4-cell comic strips, usually for one small gag, and it would be amazing to go through all of them, but most of them aren't translated, so I'm going to have to stick with just what's available. Just looking through them can be pretty fun, though. We can also look through the Super Bomberman Secret File, which appeared in an unofficial magazine. Ever wonder what the inside of Bomberman's chest looks like? Also, who's this? Is Pink Bomber her own separate character now? In the manga, many pages later, she looks like this. And White Bomber looks pretty ripped, if you ask me. And of course we get a panty shot of her because Japan. Yeah, this isn't official by any measure. I really should be sticking to the more mainline stuff in this project, but I will occasionally mention something of note. For instance, it's in the guidebook for Super Bomberman that we find a developer interview confirming the 72-hour crunch session for Bomberman NES. And it's in this guidebook where Bakuin Cross Attack got its name. But again, without a full translation, I can't verify this. We should really move on, so let's briefly talk about a really obscure game called High 10 Bomberman, which was never released to the public. Information on it is rather sketchy, but from what I can gather, it was played at Hudson's Super Caravan events in Japan, and was battle mode only. It was played on a very wide screen. Some people call it the very first game to be played on a widescreen HD TV, though this is disputed. It ran on a system consisting of 2 PC Engine consoles and some other boards, making for up to 10 players. Certainly impressive for the time, but this doesn't change much about Bomberman as a whole. The next game, however, will be quite the doozy.